Hello, everyone. Okay. Thanks for joining tonight. We have Chief Satriel from the Bronxville Police Department, and we have Brad Ashley, our Director of Technology at Bronxville School, speaking with us tonight. Rachel will speak as well. And I'm just going to give you guys a few updates on what's going on in the middle school. And of course, Dr. Wilson will finish up with his principal's report. But quickly, lots of things going on in the middle school. I have to plug our BASC program, our afternoon school program. We're big users of the Homework Helper Club, and it's huge. When they come home from school and they've got their homework done. So it's great for parents. So there are spots open in that. There are some spots open in Yoga Tuesday, Acapella Thursday, and wood puzzles and games also on Thursday. So take another look at the BASC programs. Their offerings are fantastic this semester, and I hope you all take advantage of it. What else? I feel like I had one more thing. I think that is it. Oh, we might be able to have Teen Center, fingers crossed. If everything trends in the right direction, we're hoping to revisit it in March. And I think that's it. So I'm hopeful that things are moving in the right direction. So I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Kelly to speak with all of you before we hear from Chief Satriel.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see so many familiar faces. Dr. Montesano apologizes that he's unable to join us tonight, so I will do my best in his stead. I wanted to, of course, just update everyone in terms of where we are with our COVID cases. I'm pleased to say that we are seeing a decreasing trend. Not unlike other schools in the region, we really saw an uptick right before the winter break and after the winter break, through the winter break. As you know, we are doing some in-school testing in partnership with Mount Sinai as a result of a grant that Westchester County received. We are in our 8th week. I believe we just completed our 9th week of testing with them. Over 1,600 overall tests with 60 positives have been coming out of that. 35 kids and 25 employees. In addition, just to give you some context, since the beginning of the school year, we've had a total of 249 positive student cases and 74 employee cases. The vast majority of the employees, as we know, are vaccinated. These are, some of them are breakthrough cases. Some of them have been with our unvaccinated staff. We have about 96% of our staff vaccinated. We are going to be sending out a survey to parents. It is a voluntary survey, but we would like to try and get a handle on how many of our students are vaccinated and boosted. Part of the reason for that is that it helps us in terms of contact tracing. And also there may be a new guideline coming out of, we'll see if our Westchester County adopts it, but the state would like any students who are not boosted. So this is the first guideline that we're seeing that speaks to boosters that are involved in co-curricular activities and are not boosted would have to quarantine as a close contact. Again, we're awaiting final word from Westchester County if they're adopting that. We're hearing that they will. So that will just be another layer of questions and complication as we're doing some contact tracing. Overall, I just want to send a shout out to the parents for really being partners with us on this. I know it's not easy. I know it can be highly inconvenient. You know, when your kids may be sent home with a symptom and need 2, antigens or 1 PCR to come back. And we just really appreciate your understanding and your patience as we get through this. On an unrelated note, I just want to congratulate, some of you may know Chris Kelty, a former middle school student who hit his 1,000 career points tonight in a basketball game. And I think he may be the only fourth boy in the history of our basketball program. So it's pretty exciting. Wanted to share with everybody. And overall, you know, it's really encouraging to watch our teachers and our students, you know, given that they are wearing masks and there are still some restrictions, that they show up every day and they engage and they're productive. And it's, you know, it's really, it makes us very proud to be able to see that day in and day out. So that's all I've got for you this evening. I'm happy to take any questions. I'll keep an eye on the chat room. And again, it's good to see all of you. I see your question, Chris, and we can wait on when it's probably Dr. Wilson would be best to answer that.
Okay, I think is that it, Dr. Kelly, in terms of looking in the chat. I think we're in good shape. Okay, thank you very much. All right, Chief, take it away whenever you're ready.
Well, good evening, and thank you to the PTA and Jennifer Heathwood for inviting me tonight. I'm excited I was able to change my name from my son's name without having to call him up from the basement. So we're off to a good start. I spoke at length with Jennifer Heathwood on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week as a result of an incident a case that occurred on Park Place on Sunday. And we both thought it was a good idea if I attended the 3 PTA council meetings coming up, and this is the first one. And I can give you an idea of how that case unfolded, some of what we do within the schools to educate our children on response to incidents like this, and some of the security enhancements that have been made both by the school and the village police department to ensure public safety. As I say to your children and young adults when I'm in the school, I won't be long. I'm not lecturing. I don't have a presentation. I don't have a PowerPoint. The most valuable information that I usually take in and usually give out during these discussions, even with your children, are through question and answer. And I'm sure you have a bunch, and there'll be plenty of time for that. To the incident specifically, on Sunday, we had a resident of the village, a young girl, going to Starbucks alone, not realizing that Starbucks was still closed. It was a cold, rainy, drizzly day, and she noticed that Starbucks was closed and began to walk back down Park Place when a white rented U-Haul van pulled up and parked in the no parking zone right outside of Starbucks before the loading driveway to Acme. The van pulled over and parked, and the girl was standing on the sidewalk. And we know this from reviewing our surveillance cameras. Our camera at the Craft Avenue parking lot recorded the entire incident. And the driver put the window down on the passenger side, made no attempt to get out of the van, and asked the girl for directions to Delray. She didn't know Delray and had no interest in helping him. He asked 2 or 3 times. There was a bystander parked in the loading driveway for Acme facing out. You see a lot of people sit there. You see police officers sit there and wait for passengers they drop off, or police officers observing the stop sign there. It's a common spot for someone to sit. That woman from Tuckahoe took notice of the van pulling up and speaking to the girl who was alone. And she put her window down to listen to the conversation. After a couple attempts to find the Delray directions, the driver of the van then said to the girl, "Would you like a lift? You look cold. It's cold out." The bystander heard that, immediately got out of her car, went over while dialing 911 on her cell phone, and removed the girl from being in proximity to the van, and yelled at the driver, "I'm calling 911, I'm calling 911." She took the girl over to her car. We responded. The driver put his driver's side window down, asked a gentleman in front of Haagen-Dazs who was getting in his car if he knew where Delray was. That gentleman did not answer, got in his car, and the van pulled away. We were there in less than a minute. And when something like this happens, we immediately go to our cameras. Our cameras were able to capture a license plate. Our desk officer inside immediately sent that information to our partners in Westchester County. There's a real-time crime center that operates 24 hours a day, and they are there to assist local jurisdictions in investigations. That real-time crime center recorded the plate and put it into the countywide system for license plate readers. There are numerous license plate readers, stationary and mobile, also in police cars, that automatically record and upload their data to the real-time crime center for analysis. That license plate, within 11 minutes of leaving the village, hit in Mount Vernon and twice in New Rochelle. That information is sent to us immediately. We have what is commonly referred to in my profession as the bat phone. There's a phone in headquarters that if you pick it up, there's no need to dial. It's a live line, and it hits every single police department in New York, in Westchester County, including New York State Police and the New York City Police. We pick up the hotline and alert Mount Vernon, New Rochelle that we're looking for this van to identify the driver. New Rochelle pulls the van over. We send officers to New Rochelle. We detain the driver and bring him back to Bronxville. He consented to a search of the van. He refused consent to search his cell phone. A search of the van did not uncover any evidence that was valuable to our case. It did not recover any evidence that would help us determine a motive for his conversation with the young girl. We impounded the van, consulted with the district attorney's office, and charged him with a misdemeanor count of endangering the welfare of a minor. I know since the incident, we put an alert out to the community. That alert and the days Monday and Tuesday prior to the alert, apparently there was some social media activity and text messaging throughout the community, wondering why the community didn't know about this sooner. What I can say is it's a complex investigation that continues. Once that real-time crime center identifies the plate, we identify the driver, we bring him back to headquarters. We immediately put a bulletin out to other Westchester County police departments to find out if this individual or this van was involved in any other incidents throughout Westchester County. And if so, we had the driver, we had an identity, we were holding him, and we could assist in their investigation with photographs and pedigree information on the subject. An investigation like this that that may result in us assisting other agencies requires us to hold back some information. If we release a photograph of the suspect and Scarsdale calls us on Tuesday and says, we had him, we need to do an identification procedure with our victim or our witness, our releasing the information damages their investigation. The identification procedure that has to take place in Scarsdale or any other community would be deemed suggestive because our picture is out there. Now, I know many of you are not happy to hear that, but what I will add is at no time in us contacting other agencies and working through our investigation was the village of Bronxville or any other community in proximity in danger of this gentleman doing anything other than what he did in Bronxville. We held his van. We held him. As a matter of fact, we still have his van. So there was no car for us to put out. That was a question that was posed to me several times throughout the last few days. We need to know his car. We need to know what to look for. Absolutely. If he had a car, it would have been out there. We need to know him. We need to know what he looks like. Well, that now that we've gone through at least 4 or 5 days and received no interest from any other police department in Westchester County or New York State, we would release information on the defendant. And if we felt at any point in time from the initial incident to the arrest that releasing a photograph of him would be beneficial, we would have released it despite trying to help our partners or trying to assist in other investigations. Our priority is Bronxville. It's always been. And there, you know, sometimes I forget that I'm here 34 years and not all of you are. So I expect that, you know, Rachel Kelly, Marcellus Lassane, they know me for 34 years. There's a level of trust that if there was something going on that we should know about, we would know. Chris would tell us. And to that point, I'm in constant contact. Roy knew right away. Rachel knew right away. Marcellus knew right away. I am in constant contact with Roy and Rachel, day, night, weekend, holiday, more than they probably want to hear from me. But that's my role. That's my responsibility. So sometimes I forget that new parents, new members, new residents don't realize that there's a long track record and an established trust with the police department and the school. If the Real-Time Crime Center did not identify him and we did not have him in our building within 1 hour of the reported incident, pictures would have been out. You would have heard my voice, my COVID voice that everyone says, "Oh, that's you." You would have heard my voice on a robocall, and I would have had press at headquarters ready to go live with a 5 or 6 o'clock news conference that we're searching for this van and this driver because we don't know what his motive is. None of that occurred because we had him within an hour. We had him in our building. We've saved the van, and we continue to try and determine what his motive was. He has no criminal history related to children, kidnapping, pedophilia, nothing. He has some criminal history related to gambling, no assault, no sex crimes, and no children. So I don't know. We don't know what his motive was. Was it, he's an 85-year-old man. We're in very different times now than when he was probably growing up and a young teenager and a younger adult, where it was common or appropriate to offer somebody a ride home in inclement weather. We had this 3 years ago at Haagen-Dazs. Another gentleman, 80 years old, offered a young boy from Mount Vernon a ride. in the rain to his house. The boy got in. He drove him home. Parents called us and reported it. We put a decoy out to see if he would approach another boy. He did, and it was innocent. He just explained to us that, hey, it was cold, it was raining, I offered the boy a ride home. We don't know if that's the case here. Without him cooperating with us and subjecting himself to an interrogation, we will never know. But he's been charged. We have the van. We searched it. We're waiting for a search warrant for his phone. We will continue to hopefully have that search warrant application approved by a county court judge, and we will search that cell phone. So just a couple of points that before I take any questions that Jennifer asked me to cover. You know, tips for children. This young girl did nothing wrong. She went to Starbucks, thought it was open, it wasn't open, began to walk home, and the driver stopped her. She did not approach the van. She kept a safe distance from the van. If I were going to absolutely critique it as if it were my daughter, I would have just, I don't know if I could find fault in anything. That's my problem, but that's part of my job. She could have separated herself more quickly from the situation, but she did a good job. She started to walk away, and the bystander did what we've been asking since 9/11. If you see something, say something. She saw it was unusual for the man to stop, and she removed the girl from the situation and called us immediately. So what do we tell kids of that age when they're in the schools talking about stranger danger? And that's one of the, once this COVID nightmare passes, we will be back in the schools. We tell them to travel in groups if they can. If there's anybody that's looking to kidnap or take control of a young person, they're more likely to do it to somebody who's alone. So travel in groups, travel in packs, always be aware of what's going on around you. If something doesn't look or feel right, there's a good chance you're right. Remove yourself from that situation. Go into a store. Starbucks was closed. All the other businesses on Park Place were open. What if the bystander did not get involved, we would hope that the girl would either continue walking home, and if the van followed her, just pop into a store and say, please call 911. All these children now have cell phones. Anybody can pick up and call 911 right away, and we'll be there. Several questions about his status being released on his own recognizances. You've all heard of bail reform. We must comply with bail reform. We are not permitted to set desk bail, and a judge is not permitted to set bail at arraignment for an A misdemeanor and most felonies, as a matter of fact, for that. So we are bound by the bail reform law that was passed, and he must be released on his own recognizance. In the school, we have we've trained 2 school resource officers, and when COVID is over, those officers will be assigned to the school on a part-time basis. We had an office. Security has taken it over because we're not there, but we'll work through that with Roy and Rachel once we're ready to come back in. And one of those officers will be in the office and in the cafeteria and connecting with your children. That connection is critical in investigations of this type, but more importantly in issues of drug abuse and alcohol use and bullying. If we can get our officers to connect to your children and establish a relationship with them, they will be more willing to open up to those officers. So We've trained 2 SROs, school resource officer. We've trained 4 community resource officers. That's a new term that came out of police reform. And the village board was supportive of police reform, and the police community relations committee that met over the course of 4 months recommended more officers downtown where this incident happened and more connection with the school. And the village board and the mayor and the village administrator supported 2 new police officers to bring us to 23. And we are charged with assigning those 2 officers, or 2 of the 23, to walk the business district between 8 and 4 p.m. on their day shift and 4 p.m. to midnight on their night shift. Part of that 8 to 4 will be park and walks in the school. And that's in addition to the SROs. So you'll see a school resource officer in the office and walking around, then you'll see a park and walk from the CROs that will be assigned to daytime. And those 4 community resource officers will also be trained as SROs this spring. So we'll have 6 to rotate within the building. Our relationship with the school is strong. It's been strong since I came here. I was the first ever New York State certified juvenile officer. We now have 11 within the department. It's a very complex, Family Court Act is a very complex act and law. There are numerous protections for children, and the police officer that comes out of the police academy and does field training is not trained in all the complex issues that impact young adults. And that, coupled with the bail reform, was raise the age. So now your children who were criminally responsible for their behavior when they turned 16, it's now as high as 19. So we need that extra support from our officers to help your children and help them as they become young adults. I believe I covered everything Jennifer asked. I probably spoke longer than I wanted to, but that happens with me too. I'm ready, willing, and available at any time. I'll answer any question you have tonight. I fielded many questions Monday night and Tuesday night by cell phone and email. I am approachable, available. You may not like the answer at times, but I'm a straight shooter. I will tell you why I can't tell you something, or we will have a healthy debate about it. We are, I'd like to think, the most transparent police department in the county, maybe in the state. Our robocalls, you find out when cars are stolen, you find out when there's burglaries, you get phone calls from me and the mayor on COVID. I always err on the side of too much information. So I hope that you realize that the delay, as some have put it, did not in any way diminish public safety within the village. It was calculated to assist our partners, and we had him and we have his van. So we knew we didn't need to immediately come out with something for public safety concern. Questions, issues, I don't know how you want to, everybody unmutes at the same time. It's going to be tough, but I'm ready to answer any questions you have.
I don't know, Chief, if you can see the chat, or I can read you the questions if that works. That might work.
Yeah, that probably works better.
Okay. One question was, does the man live locally?
Yes, he lives on Bronx River Road in Yonkers. He's an 85-year-old man. His name is Carmine Picano. And as I said, he has that arrest history for some gambling violations.
Okay, thank you. If you have a question, please add it to the chat. I'm monitoring it and we'll relay it to Chief.
See, now this is just like with your kids. There's got to be questions. Come on.
I've got one. I've got one. Did he mention why he had a rental van?
No, he has no cars registered to himself. We're not sure why he's renting. We have also subpoenaed the rental agreement because it was not within the van. So we want to know how long he's had the van, how many times he's rented from U-Haul. We're waiting for that information. We're waiting for that subpoena to be approved, and then we'll serve it upon U-Haul to find out how long he's had the van and how many other times he's rented.
And I just want to add briefly, and you'll be hearing more details from the principals directly, but stranger danger is part of our curriculum. And we are circling back and looking at that curriculum and reviewing it. And we're going to be upgrading, if you will, the lessons again now. So you'll be hearing more about that from the principals.
Right. And Rachel, we were in touch this morning. I was going to save it for the elementary school council meeting. We were in touch this morning and set up some stranger danger talks with the elementary school. So, middle school, when I'm going to date myself again, when Ann Hartmere was there, we did juvenile law education project. And I think it's something that was very valuable. That was in the middle school. Middle school kind of gets lost sometimes in curriculum, and we do a lot for the elementary school, and then we talk a lot to the high school about alcohol and drugs and bullying and social media. And the middle school was kind of lost the last I would say 5 to 7 years. I'd like to see juvenile law education project brought back, especially with the raise the age legislation, because now our children really don't know when are they criminally liable and culpable, and for what, and what should they be doing, what shouldn't they be doing. So I spoke immediately with Roy about accelerating the stranger danger and Rachel, and we'll be reviewing that in short order to get it on the calendar. Elementary will be next week.
Thank you. We'd love to have you in the middle school. Thank you. There's a few more questions, and then I think that might be it. People were asking where the location Del Rey is. And is that like a legitimate location that he could have been looking for, or does it not make any sense?
It makes no sense.
Okay.
There's a Del Rey in the Bronx. We don't know why. When Nurse Sargent pulled him over, you got to remember, he doesn't know that we had the cameras and the license plate readers and we're tracking him through Mount Vernon and New Rochelle. He said he was meeting a woman in Bronxville and was looking for, and he told the New Rochelle Sergeant the same name, Del Rey. It doesn't match anything in proximity to Park Place. So we're not sure.
Okay. Another question was do you think there was any malicious intent? And someone else asked if there was potentially dementia noted.
No dementia. He was lucid. He was cooperative to a point. And I don't know his intent. My gut tells me he's an 85-year-old man who was looking for somewhere close to the name Del Rey that wasn't in Bronxville. And when the girl said no and she looked cold, he offered a ride home. That's my gut, but we don't go on guts. So, we charged him. We continue with the subpoenas and we continue working. I really don't believe there was nothing in the van to indicate that anything was going to happen. The bed of the van was actually empty, except for a small bag with some writings. He claims to write scripts, and there were several scripts in a small bag in the back of the van. There were no weapons. I've heard tape. I've heard zip ties. No. That's one of the struggles with social media and texting and that's why we struggle with getting information out to correct that or protecting the integrity of our investigation. So I don't know his motive. I feel strongly that he was not going to hurt the girl in any way. He did not race away from the scene. He engaged the gentleman in front of Haagen-Dazs while the woman was calling 911, and while she was yelling at him that I'm calling 911, he slowly drove down Park Place. We caught him on camera leaving the village in a very slow and calm manner. So I don't believe he was going to harm her in any way. That's my
Okay.
belief.
Thank you for that. Well, thank you for your investigation. Thank you for everything that you do to keep our school and our community safe. We're lucky to have you and your team, and we'd love to have you come to the middle school. So we'll be in touch.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Excellent. And I just offer again, email, phone call. I'm available anytime, any place, any day to answer questions. I would much rather take some time out of my schedule to answer those questions than have this text chain or social media chain go unchecked, because it's 1 square mile, 34 years of my life dedicated to it. I don't want to see anything happen to any child under my watch. So call anytime, email anytime. Let's work together through any issues that come up.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you. Okay, so Brad, are you available now?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Well, Brad's our Director of Technology, and he's going to speak to us about digital citizenship. Thanks, Brad.
Yes, of course. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. So digital citizenship, what we try and do is try and put it throughout the entire district. And so let me just start by saying that digital citizenship is started in elementary school. And Izzy Vittori, our elementary school librarian, does a lot of lessons kind of focused on digital citizenship. In addition to our elementary school technology program, which was run by Carol Ann Del Judas, who now works in the middle school, and then is now being run by Claire Holoku. And so in the elementary school, we focus a lot on digital citizenship in terms of how students are starting to engage with the internet. We know that they are going on websites where they're kind of exploring, but middle school is really where they're using technology a lot more. They're using it, socially a lot more. Probably starts in 5th grade, and so we really try and focus on digital citizenship in terms of what students are doing and maybe going to do. So, but what I really want to focus on is kind of this digital idea of digital citizenship for everyone. And that includes elementary school students, that includes middle school students who we're talking about today, includes high school students, and also includes adults, because there's a lot of patterns that we're seeing just in terms of general behavior on the internet. So digital citizenship is something that we can all learn, as nobody, with the exception of a few 5th grade students, those students have grown up with the internet, I should say. Everybody, it was something that they eventually learned or came into and kind of had some idea about how to engage in the world. And then all of a sudden this new internet was available to them, and kind of rewriting and kind of seeing how to interact with it. So our digital citizenship, there's a lot of different definitions right now, because it's still kind of figuring out what digital citizenship is. At one point, it was more focused on like having a strong password. And then with the rise of social media, we started seeing some behaviors that kind of came out, where students were not showing empathy, which is the first one, probably the biggest one, in my opinion, in which they were, engaging in bad practices, name calling, bullying, and all of the nasty things that you might be seeing. So really, digital citizenship kind of has been shifting. And these are just 5 points of many. There's many resources available on the internet that we'll go through at the end. But these are just 5 points that I like to remind people of when we talk about digital citizenship. Empathy, how the internet works, understanding user data, practicing digital literacy, and then practicing digital wellness. So the first one is, of course, empathy. I mentioned it earlier because I think it's the biggest one, and really encouraging students and everyone really to think of the person on the other side of the screen. Often joked about is that the comments section of any website is like the worst place in the world because people feel freedom to type whatever they want to behind a username that might not be their name, or behind a keyboard in which they're not looking at someone directly that they might be saying something to. So really focusing on empathy and understanding the human experience, understanding that there is a human on the other side of that screen reading what you type. And so really a lot of things come back to empathy as in a kind of a anchor point for students to really think about, okay, whatever I'm doing on the internet, there's going to be somebody on the other side that reads this. So whether it be a text message that's sent, or a post on Twitter, or even something posted in a Google Classroom, there is going to be somebody that reads this. And would you feel comfortable saying that in person? Would you want that to be said to you? So those kind of things about understanding that, again, there is another person on the other side of the screen. All right. The second point is how the internet works. And this is kind of twofold. It's very easy to post. There's no teacher saying, you probably shouldn't do that. There's no editor, there's no nothing. Oftentimes you can just post to the internet. There's no, hey, should you say this? I know that there are new apps out there that have been created by young entrepreneurs to say, is this something that you want to be posting? But oftentimes, you can fire away on Twitter or social media or Google Classroom and just be able to type something really quickly and send it. And so again, understanding that that's how the internet works, there's no extra step to be able to do that is really important. It also means that understanding how the internet works, understanding that you can do all these things very easily without it being validated by anything. If it's easy to post and there's a teacher, or there's no editor or teacher to review, it can be fake. The popular buzzword is now fake news that's entered our lexicon. And it's because it's so easy just to put information up there. And just like Chief Satrielli was talking about, it's really hard to take it down once it's out there. So again, going back to the empathy piece, do you want to be posting this? Do you want to put it out there, whether or not it's true or not? And then B is how the internet works. It's the ability to connect with people all over the world. And at one point, this was a huge pro. This was the ability to find small communities. If you were, this is the extreme example that I often use, but if you're a goth living in somewhere in Nebraska, that is a small farming community, you can find other people that you can connect with. And that at one point was a great thing. But now there's cons to it where you'll be able to connect and people are able to connect to you all over the world. And so you just really have to think about motivations. You have to think about what their intents are. Oftentimes now we see this with these, social media farms where they put out so much information that it's hard to realize that they're on the other side of the world. They're not in your city or in your state kind of involved in local politics. What they are is they're somewhere else that's trying to influence you. And so understanding that the internet is 24/7, people can always kind of contact you. Understanding user data is another important part that oftentimes it's said that if a product is free, then you are the product. You are paying for with your information, your data. User data is a big business, and oftentimes targeted ads create bubbles or echo chambers where you're constantly hearing the same thing over again because of your interest. And so really having people understand, both students and adults, that whatever they're putting out there, they're putting out their age, they're putting out their location, they're putting out these things. Oftentimes it's very targeted ads, and the more deeper that you go within Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, all those algorithms, they're going to find things that you might have searched on and kind of introduce you to similar products. And so really understanding that you are a product that these big businesses are trying to sell additional ad space to. And so really understanding that point of it, that maybe it's not, oh, you're really interested in this and all these things keep coming at you. It's on purpose and it's being bought, ad space is being bought to get to you, and understanding that influence. Practicing digital literacy. Again, another important thing, really reading multiple sources and thinking before buying into anything. as I mentioned in the second point of how understanding how the internet works, really understanding that it's easy to put something out there. So read multiple sources about it. In all of our English classes or history classes, we tell students to look up multiple sources for anything that they might be citing in a paper. And so we should be doing the same thing even casually on the internet. If we read some a headline on Twitter, we probably want to click on a few other things to see if it's valid information before making a judgment on it. So really practicing digital literacy, thinking, it's really easy to get information. It's also really easy to search and validate that information. So taking that extra step or two to find things that are like or similar that kind of validate whatever the original post is saying. And then practicing digital wellness. And it's good to take stock and kind of step away, understanding that screens are now more of a part of our daily life than before. I remember pre-pandemic, I was preparing a lot of presentations on how we are using screens, and we're being very thoughtful about screen usage in all 3 schools. And then the pandemic hit and we couldn't avoid it. And so now it's really preaching against not having your screen on all the time, being able to, I practiced this at the end of last year when I met with a majority of the teachers for the end of the year, kind of a check-in, seeing what they were, what they might need for next year. But I also mentioned that think about engaging with students again. Don't have them on their computers as much. Be okay closing the laptop, turning off the iPad, and just engaging again, because so often we're always on this. And you can talk about the glare of the screen, you can talk about the addiction, the ideas of going off into the internet and the distractions that all that holds. And so really it's good to take stock and kind of step away. And not surprisingly, Google actually has a website for this. It's called wellbeing.google. You can kind of see it at the very top. But I suggest this to a lot of people. I suggest this to our staff often. This really helps you take stock and really kind of give you an idea of what you're spending your time on and when it's okay to pull away, and kind of helps you organize. An old adage is you always find work to fill the time. And so if you are able to structure your time in which you have time away from the computer, your work on the actual device can't kind of bleed over into that. So, just an additional resource to kind of think about. Again, wellbeing.google. And it's kind of a little quiz in which you can kind of read up on ways that you can organize your day in which you're away from a device, even if your job kind of depends on it. So I know I've been awfully quick, and I just didn't want to take too much time. And what Chief Secretary was talking about was very important. So I kind of rushed through this, but again, I'm available. But here are some helpful tips. So number one, you being parents are the greatest filter. We have a lot of filters on the Chromebooks that are assigned to all district or to all students through our district. And we try and lock it down as much as possible. We try and allow students to learn and be safe, but then, protect them when needed. But really, the internet is constantly changing. And the best filter out there is really a parent sitting next to, a parent being able to monitor, much like we have teachers monitoring in the classroom. A big part of teaching, especially in today's environment with a one-to-one, is moving around the classroom and kind of monitoring and making sure all students are on task, especially when they have these screens up, and oftentimes their laptops. And so that's the greatest filter for in classroom is teachers' movement, teachers constantly being around. And I think that that's probably the best at home as well. And so keep in mind that you are the greatest filter to preventing students from seeing anything that they shouldn't be seeing. In terms of other things, in terms of devices like iPhones or iPads, charge devices in a central location and kind of set up times to charge. One of the best advice that I've heard is from Janelle Burley Hoffman, who's come to talk to us a few times. And her greatest advice was to buy an $8 alarm clock on Amazon, so that the alarm clock is the only thing in the student's bedroom or the kid's bedroom. And that device is being charged in a central location in which the parents know that the student doesn't have control of it. Oftentimes, we find that a lot of problems happen as students have devices and are texting late at night or searching late at night. Charge those devices in a central location and you remove that, temptation. One thing that's very difficult, but we all, it's a new year, and so we can all have resolutions to get to, but establish rules for emails and work for the entire household. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and they see daddy working on the laptop, and now the 3-year-old thinks that she has to answer emails. It kind of breaks my heart, but it's just, at the same time, it's a reminder that they really emulate what we do. And I think that this goes through all kids of all ages, whether or not, whatever the relationship may be. So, kind of establish rules in which time that you can also unplug, looking at the digital well-being, unplug for yourself, take an hour not to answer emails, or set a time in your mind in which, you're done working and you can spend time with your family and then maybe pick up if needed. I think that would go a long way towards setting an example for your students. Again, point 4 goes into point 3, carve out low tech, no tech times to reconnect with each other. Number 5, Common Sense Media was one that a couple of years ago pushed a board game Tuesday. And so they encourage people to grab a board game, turn off devices on Tuesday nights and just play and reconnect with each other. And that's becoming more and more popular, and a lot of companies are kind of buying into that, hoping that they can help you kind of create this a schedule in which not everybody's just on a device, but reconnecting with each other. And then final point is to subscribe to Common Sense Media. It's the most well-known, but also the one that we go to quite often. So I'm going to click here and just show you a sample page. Common Sense Media is a huge, vast resource of knowledge for a lot of different things, including music, video games, movies, but then there's also these parenting sections on social media and screen time and everything. So this is the main page. As you can see at the very top, it says commonsensemedia.org. And then I was able to scroll down to a parenting section. And this is just an example of how they break it down between preschoolers, little kids, big kids, tweens, and teens. And then they have a few articles. So I would definitely subscribe to their mailing list. I subscribe, and oftentimes I find stuff that I pass on to staff. And oftentimes this is where we use some guidance for our elementary school and our middle school digital citizenship lessons. And then finally, some reading. This is not all the books that I'm reading, but this is a few that might be helpful for you. iRules by Janelle Burley Hoffman. Again, I mentioned her earlier. She's come to speak, and she'll be in the rotation again at some point. But she's great about being very honest. She has teenage children of her own, and so she's able to kind of talk about the rules that she established in her household. I thought a lot of parents find it valuable to hear from a mother that's going through that. I have a 3 and a 1-year-old, not exactly middle schooler, so I can't speak to your experience, but she definitely can. Another great book is How to Break Up with Your Phone by Catherine Price. It's a small read and a short read, but it has some good advice in it. Again, none of these are meant to be treated as the one and only source. Much like digital literacy, we need to read multiple sources and kind of pick and choose what we want and what fits our lifestyle. And How to Break Up with Your Phone has some great suggestions. So that might be something that you might be interested in. And then finally, Program or Be Programmed, 10 Commandments for the Digital Age. This is a book that I used often when I was a computer science teacher in the high school. And more than anything, I like the title. I like the idea of you either program or be programmed. And in computer science, that's learning how to program and learning how to code, but then also thinking about, in terms of social media, about how easy it is to be programmed if you're just kind of absorbing it all. If you're able to engage and say, you know what, I don't know if I believe in that, I'm going to click on a few other sources, or, okay, I really shouldn't say that because there's another human being on the other side of the screen. I'm not going to engage. All these lessons can kind of meld together in terms of digital citizenship and what we want to do. All right. So again, I apologize for kind of rushing through that, but I noticed that there was a chat here. This is great. Thank you. Alternative resources. Alternative resources for balance other than well-being from Google that you like just seems another way for Google to gather more data. Excellent point. Yes. Now the Google doesn't, you don't log into that particular website. I think that you can if you want to. It is videos, but I can put out other resources for just unplugging. Common Sense Media is a great one as well. That you don't have to log into as well. You can read majority articles. Unfortunately, if you want all of the articles, there is a subscription fee, but a lot of the articles are for free.
Thank you, Brad. Love those tips. We use Common Sense Media a lot at home too, to double check those movies and the ratings and all that. So thank you. And a lot more tips I've picked up tonight. So I appreciate you tuning in tonight and speaking to all of us. Thank you.
Right.
Tom, before I hand it over to you, I just need to give a quick update about the foundation. I meant to do that before we heard from Chief, and it'll be 2 seconds because I know we don't have much time, but just want to let you guys know that grants have opened. And if you have a grant that you'd like to submit, please submit the grant to Wendy Fahey. The foundation nominations for board positions are starting, and they'll be closing February 4th. So if you have a nominee who you'd like to present for a board member, as a board member for the foundation, that date is by February 4th. And lastly, if you have not had a chance to donate to the foundation, it's a wonderful organization that enhances the enrichment programs in our school greatly. And if there's some way you ever want to get involved in our school and have a really big impact, it's the foundation. So I'm a big supporter and hope you can all get involved and see all the great things that it does. So without further ado, I know it's 8 o'clock. Thank you, everyone. Tom, I know you have a lot to talk about too, and we're all ears.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry to have my alter ego on the screen this evening, but I am. I assure you it's for everyone's benefit that I am hiding behind Elvis tonight. I'm not feeling particularly well, and I do appreciate you hanging in with me. I want to address the comment that was made at the beginning of this this meeting, because I think it's certainly a pressing issue, and it's one that we need to begin to address. It's our Math 6 honors program has come under a lot of scrutiny this year that we didn't experience last year. Why? It's a different climate. It's a different school year. It's a different set of circumstances. There's no particular problem with it being scrutinized. It has to meet the needs of the people who are using it currently. So we have taken a significant amount of feedback from students and parents about the concern regarding having the curriculum be largely self-taught. Kids were given packets of information weekly to do and to use online resources for some of the instruction if needed. That did not go over well with a significant number of parents and I think students as well. Fair enough. It's not a failing paradigm, but if it's not the paradigm that makes the most sense for us, it's incumbent upon us to change it. It is not the case that we have canceled Math 6H. That has not occurred. What we have done since the January return after break is we have eliminated the packets that go home. We have eliminated the need for students to find resources on their own or resources given online to augment their understanding. What have we replaced that with? We've replaced that with significant in-class time with the teacher giving direct instruction to students specifically who are in the 6H paradigm. Students who are taking Math 6 are being given some independent work to do at that time. Other times, the entire class is being given direct instruction. And there are times when 6H students are being given independent work and Math 6 students are getting direct instruction. But we have tremendously shifted the paradigm from having students have to rely on online resources and instead are getting that information and that instruction directly from teachers. What has not changed is the fact that we still want kids in 6H to bring their questions to extra help. We want them to connect with their teachers. We want them to journal about the experience of math and share that with their teachers. And there are some additional questions on assessments that are designed directly for students who are in the 6H paradigm. And those are a part of their overall grade in the class. A related question, and it may have been from Mr. O'Gorman, it could have been from someone else, but I think it's not a one-person question, is what happens next? Where's this going? What's happening with 6H as it pertains to Math 7H, and how are we going to make that determination? And if you've been following this trajectory of where things are with our math program in middle school, you will note that the math program is about self-selection. It's about making the decision that's right for you, right for your family, right for your sensibilities, not based on anything other than your interest, your passion for math, and your ability to do the work. Teachers will still make a recommendation. They will still share their best guess with you about what makes the most sense, but you will have the ability to choose whether you want to take the Math 7H curriculum or not. It is not a very good idea to be in Math 6 and move to 7H. That we can go through in detail if it's a question later. But students who work through the Math 6H paradigm should be more than prepared to take Math 7H. They are not going to be precluded from taking Math 7H because of a quarterly score. They are not going to be, they are not going to be put in a position where they are told they cannot. And that is going to follow suit into Algebra 1. In Algebra 1, students may self-select to take that class. We do think that students who take Math 7H will be better prepared to take Math 7H. We will make a recommendation that students who want to take algebra in 8th grade voluntarily take the Khan Academy course on getting ready for Algebra 1. We think it's a solid course to begin the understanding for the for the class, but it is not a requirement. Of note on that that summer work we gave this year, no student was made to drop to Math 8 because they didn't finish the work. That didn't happen. So the voluntary component of this is already in place in essence, but it will be made more declarative as we move forward. So to recap the position on where we are with the math paradigm at the moment, we have stopped giving the packets. We have retrenched in the classroom. Both Ms. Brea and Ms. Flaherty are giving direct instruction in the component lessons for Math 6H to those students on a routine basis. Students are still being asked to make extra help appointments to come in to talk. They are still being asked to keep some math journaling, and they are still being asked to show competency in some of the extra Math 6H content, which is just an extension of what everybody in Math 6 is expected to do. So this is where we are now. In the spring, when we start to look at next year, again, every student will have the ability to self-select the math class that they would like to elect to take. If a student took Math 6, they are not precluded from going to Math 7H, but the teacher recommendation will include some necessary practice that should be undertaken. But that does not mean that there will be a wafer of control on that. You can volunteer to do it or not, but we hope that most of the people who opt to do Math 7H took the extra challenges this year, because we feel that the teachers are preparing the 6H kids to start next year moving very quickly. They're going to be doing a lot of Math 8 work in Math 7H, and they need this underpinning, and they need to have the background in order to move forward with it. If at the end of Math 7H, students want to take Algebra 1, that is completely reasonable. If a student in Math 7 wants to take Algebra 1, we will talk about it. But it is not something that the school is going to decree that you can't do. But there are things that we think would be reasonable for a student to have in place before they take that kind of a leap. I will memorialize all of this in writing as well, and maybe go into a little bit more detail in the bulletin tomorrow, so that there's a clearer, more linear document of what I'm talking about tonight. But I will be happy to answer any questions that anyone has tonight to the best of my ability to do so. I really appreciate you taking pity on me and not giving me a barrage of questions, but I really am, I don't sound good, but I'm fairly well rested, so I can take your questions. If there are none, please in advance, let me say thank you thanks, Catherine. Let me say thank you to our math department. They have worked as a team to make these necessary and strategic and very beneficial changes to the way math is being taught. I implore you, if you have a 6th grader in 6H, have a dinner conversation about this. What do they notice? How is it going? I am completely comfortable with you getting in touch with me and telling me what mileage you're getting, because what I am suggesting to you is the overview. How is it affecting your child directly? I need to know that. If it feels different than what's being advertised, please.
Tom, do you see that comment in the comments, or I can read it?
I do. I see, I see it. The monitoring of the student progress in 6H is seamlessly being done by the teachers. The teachers are making that distinction of progress. The work that is being done for class is being addressed as I had mentioned. There's nothing that necessarily that parents need do differently, but a 6H student may have some different homework, but that homework will be given by the teacher and reviewed in class rather than a packet that is just submitted. Is this going to change next year for rising fifth graders? We don't think so. We think that the way we started is fairly consistent with what we'd like to see. We want students coming into sixth grade to make that decision with their family. We've had several students who opted to not do 6H once they started. That's very reasonable. These a statistically small number of students, but that's what middle school's about. It's about trying things and seeing what you want to do and what you can handle and what feels right for you at a given time. Not a problem to move from the 6H work, and it doesn't mean a different class. It doesn't mean a different teacher. It just means different work is expected. The specific feedback, Rob and Rosie, that we got this year was from students first, and then from parents, that the students didn't enjoy doing the work this way. That's a change. That's not the same as it was a year ago. Maybe those students were more compliant and less self-assured. Maybe this is the result of public action research that's done in fifth grade. I applaud it, whatever it is, because if it's not working for our students, they are the first ones who should tell us that something isn't working for them. And they did. And their parents followed suit to tell us that they weren't comfortable having students just doing the work on their own. They wanted direct instruction from the teacher. That doesn't seem like a very unreasonable request to make of a school. So we took this feedback into account, and we made the change at the end of the December break, and we've been retooling how classes are run as a result. And I got feedback from the two teachers and from the math department chair that things are going very well. They feel very strongly that kids are responding as they had hoped, that there is good work being done, and we will continue to monitor that. But there's been a seamless transition as it pertains to content and goals for students. So far from diminishing the program, or even worse, just not having 6H, this is an enhancement to 6H that we feel is going to make the students more robust and more well prepared to do the 7H, which is really 8th grade math in 7H clothing.
Okay, do you see the comment? One parent was asking if their child could continue to receive the packets.
The packets that were produced for second semester from last year may be available. I will have to check on that. But they would be given as ancillary extra work if parents so chose, but it wouldn't be part of what we're asking students to do right now. I think at the center of this, folks, is a really important question that our community asked us, and I respect and appreciate that not everybody felt the same way, but the real salient question that came up in this for us philosophically is, what's the role of the school in the teaching of our students? And we felt really strongly that this middle school teachers need to teach middle school students. If there's extra work to be done on their own, so be it, but they need direct instruction from our faculty. And it didn't feel correct. And when people were voicing their concerns, we took them very seriously, and we'll continue to monitor, but that's why we are where we are tonight. No, we did not solicit feedback from all parents, but as I had mentioned a minute ago, this is because we feel that there is a specific course correction needed for the teachers to be doing some direct instruction. That does not mean that students in 6H will have less work now. It just means that they will be getting their specific instruction from their teacher. Okay. Caroline, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk. I just wanted to say that when we will be doing the stranger education work in the middle school, I've been working with Vic Prenny, our director of safety. He's a veteran of the police force in Yonkers, and he has a lot to say on this subject as well. But we will be doing a 6 through 8 presentation during advisory, and I will let parents know in advance that that's happening, so that there's no confusion about when it will occur. We think it's vital and valuable to do, and I don't care if the people out there are 85, I don't care who they are, I don't care if you're alive and you're an adult in this world, you know not to come near our kids. And it's non-negotiable, and our kids need to be savvier about how to address their own personal safety. And I'm very grateful to our neighborhood watch folks, and the lady from Tuckahoe did a beautiful thing. But our students need to be empowered with up-to-date and useful skills, and we'll help them with that. With that, I will turn it back to you, Caroline, unless there's something else.
No, I think you covered it, Tom. I know you've been working on that presentation. That'll be, I know you'll tell us. Oh, sorry, did someone have a question? Okay, so thank you for that. And please get better, rest up. I didn't realize how sick you were. I'm sorry about that. So
I sound bad, but I'm okay.
Okay. All right. Well, rest up. All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. You can follow up with me with any questions, or to Tom or Chief. Seems open. And all right. Be well, and we will see you next month. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks.